Hello, and welcome to Frank's School. This is the 6-year, 178th day, second video of several. It's going to be of several. I'll explain about that later on. But anyway, there's that same drawing I was working with yesterday, and I decided there's really a bunch more stuff to say about it. Now this looks like a big mess. I'll see how quickly I can clean it up. Maybe I could get rid of that right away. Single bent. Now what that refers to is what you're looking at is a single slice through the building. And I'm not at this point offering enough for you to decide, oh, I'm going to go build one of those. But I do want to point out that this is just one single bent. It's also sometimes called a bay. Let's see, another thing, the dimensions here are for rough sawn lumber, not S4S they call it, which is dressed lumber, what a normal person in the United States would get down to a store and buy. It's also not metric. Those will have to be done later, and I do intend to do them later. See, little by little I'm clearing this up. All right, now, as for the soil composition on the roof, I don't think I spoke to that. I maybe did. Anyway, it's going to be various recipes. I mean, it'll be custom cooked or prepared, mixed soil that go there. And there can be all kinds of stuff that can go up there, because in a way, you're starting with you might call it a blank slate. The pulley, that refers to the fact that I'll have to put a pulley here to be able to hoist the soil up in buckets to put on the soil, or on the roof. Now you might wonder, how can I get out there? Well, what you don't see in this drawing is there are hatches in the center on both sides where a person standing there, his head might actually be his or her head might be that high up as he or she reaches out to do his gardening. So anyway, there'll be a pulley there to hoist the soil up. Well, let's see, what else can I say? Let me deal with this stuff. Well, the roofing material itself, not the soil, but what goes underneath the soil. I said I've got to have something that's impermeable, yes, and I I talked about those various options. But I'm using used pallets. A lot of them are very damaged, and they have nails sticking out everywhere. Well, to a certain extent, you can pound those nails down or pull them, flatten them, so that they're not sticking up and going to pierce that impermeable layer. But it would be nice if you could have a layer there. Here comes a cat fight. Have a layer that would sort of prevent the nails from doing that. The only thing about that is I really do want the underside to be white, or at least very light in color, so that it makes it a little bit more light. So what could be used there? Well, or actually on the outside of the permeable layer as well. It's an opportunity to use up all kinds of material. Sheets, old sheets, old blankets. A white blanket would be lovely right there on the inside, underneath the impermeable layer. Clothes, it doesn't necessarily have to end up being flat. Feed sacks, on the farm I buy a lot of shell corn, and I've saved the sacks. I've got, I want to say hundreds of old feed sacks. I could, and maybe I will lay them there, sort of shingle them, not as much to shed the water as to, as I say, cover the sharper edges of whatever, even the rough wood. Feed sacks, rags, old tarps. I didn't write that down there, but old tarps that leak, they're wearing out. They do fine there because they'd be covered. Cardboard, if you had a lot of cardboard, you could shingle the cardboard up through there, and that would work as well. Vinyl flooring would be great if instead, what vinyl to me is a very nasty material, but it's out there. You got to do something with it. And if you take vinyl flooring, old that's ripped up, and turn it upside down, it actually is white on the underside, and or I could use it on the lower side. I have some of that. The trouble is that flooring retailers, they tend to just lay more on top of the old, or if they tear it up, just throw it in a dumpster to go to a landfill. But anyway, if you could get old vinyl flooring, I certainly wouldn't go out and buy any new, not of that material. Old carpet, boy, that's a nasty material, but something has to be done with it. An old carpet would actually do fine in either case. And on the upper side, you know, the natural, the sun, the roots, the bugs would gradually clean it. It's heavy, but old carpet is another one of those things that's just thrown in a dumpster if you can bear to handle. Burlap. Now, if you were actually buying new material, burlap would help to lay it across there, would help to hold the soil, of course. And there's other materials new that I suppose you could buy. Bale net, I call it. Now when they make these big round bales, they put a kind of a real thin white plastic netting around it. What do you do with that stuff? Well, it's nasty too, and I don't know if it decomposes, I'm not sure. But anyway, it would go on there, on the outer side to hold soil. Twine, old baler twine. There's just almost anything you could throw up there on top of that, except you do want to be able to mix the soil. All right, well anyway, I got through that list. A lot of materials, and maybe some of the viewers out there could think of some that I haven't thought of yet. But it could be that the first impulse to do with anything might be, well, throw it up on the roof. Now, the areas. Well, let me deal with this too. Once something is actually growing on the roof, this area right there can be, in effect, a very thin greenhouse. You know, you could cover that, like they say, oh, a frost is coming, cover your plants. Well, you could, out through the hatch, you could certainly cover your plants with what's clear, in which case it would actually act a good bit like a little greenhouse, tiny greenhouse. Translucent, there's translucent materials, there's certainly opaque materials, or materials that would insulate, like blankets. I mean, in effect, this becomes a garden that is just basically waist high. You're sticking your head out into your garden, and you garden it like you might other gardens. All right, so dealt with that. All right, and I've spoken about the hatches, but why I've left them on there is because I want to talk about the areas involved here. Now this footprint right here would be 8 foot wide by 12 foot long. So we're talking about 100 square feet. And I keep it barely under 100 square feet, because here in this area, then you don't have, it won't be taxed. It's under that limit. No codes, no no permits really involved either. I mean, the catch is it's not supposed to be for human habitation, but you know that'll be a job patrolling people to make sure, hey, get out of there. You can't be sleeping overnight in there, whatever. Anyway, that is about 100 square feet. But by shooting the eaves out 3 feet on each side, overshot, now you're up to 14 foot. And what doesn't show on this is the knee wall will stick out about, in this, about 20 inches in each direction. Call it 2 feet in each direction. For an additional set of rafters, it'll shoot out. And so the gable end also ends up being more. So the building ends up being not 12 foot long, but 16 foot long, 2 on each. Now you've got 14 by 16. And on that footprint of less than 100 square feet, now if I did my math right, you've got 224 square feet looking straight down of garden, of roof garden. And this space is not lost. I mean, that's for passageway. You know, it's roofed in a sense. If you put one right close to the other, it almost becomes like one of those narrow medieval streets, or on the end as well. Or, as I've shown, if you use this as a module, well, you can actually have them fastened to each other, run that rafter up that way, or run an additional rafter up that way, and well, and have it meet on this side, and well, that's, I'll have to use another video for something like that. And still, there's another way to look at this. Since this is 10 foot and this is 16 foot, that's 160. 160, 10 by 16, that's 160 square feet of area this way. And there's two sides. Now we're up to 320 square feet. And you might say, yeah, but that's different. Well, I say, like the Alps. You know, I guess I'll never forget that someone pointed out that if you took the Alps in Europe and ironed them out, flattened them out, that would give an area bigger than, or as big as, all of Europe. You know, land doesn't necessarily tend to be flat like a plain, and yet still stuff grows on it, whether this is more shady or that's more sunny. So we're getting up to 320 square feet over a footprint of only 100 square feet. Add to that you could have window boxes underneath the windows, or whatever. You know, those would be very shady areas. But of course, there are plants that thrive where it's somewhat shady. The irrigation, I didn't. The irrigation just kind of works. It's a whole other subject. We'll have to just see about that. All right, areas covered. Oh, heat. Finally, I said heat. This is a heatable space, and as that heat is being lost, I guess you might say, as it migrates upward, it will tend to heat this. Now, as far as being closed in, there and there are the places that would be closed in, so this area will be warm. It could be, whatever. And that heat will then go into that soil as well. Well, this has been fast, like the other one, but I can finally erase my drawing, I think, and I'll see you next time.